today and for what you're giving us through your servant. May all of us gain from whatever it is that I will be sharing with them. In Jesus' name we pray.
Amen.
Take your seats. Good morning, church, once again. As introduced, my name is Joseph Wanyeki, and I'm in the industry of IT. I work in a financial institution, and I know I seem young, but I don't work alone. I'm married to Anne. She's seated there. You can wave to the crowd. And we have 3 amazing children. There's Darrell, he's 13. There's Mani Wamboi, who's 6. And there's Thayo, who's 9 months. He's also waving. Yes. So today we are going to speak about mission in the ICT field. This was one of the most hard things to come up with because ICT is very dense. So it was hard to come up with something that would quench the thirst of the whole community. And what we came up with was something called how to safeguard ourselves in the digital world. So that's cyber, how you interact yourselves in the cyber world, in the digital world, with your devices, and anything else. So we begin with the biggest question. What is a digital world? The digital world is the availability and use of digital tools to communicate on the internet, using digital devices, smart devices, and other technology. The biggest question is, how do we navigate through the digital world and ensure that we are safe? This is what we will be sharing with today, and you will be able to know how to secure your child's device, learn and identify the notable scams that are found online, and keep your information safe. The scope is going to be divided into 2, so you need to follow keenly. We're going to speak about how to keep our children safe, and the second one is how to keep the larger community safe. So the first one, how do we keep our children safe when navigating in the digital world? Many of us with children below 18 years have acquired devices for them or share our devices with them. The content we as adults access is necessarily not safe for the young ones and continuously exposes them to things that are beyond their age. Question is, how do we curb this? Are you aware that you can register your child's device using their email address? I'm sure most of you don't. So we take the shortcut of creating an email address, probably with their name, and the next thing that you do, you input your own age. That's the biggest mistake that you make. So what you're supposed to do is you create your child's email address, put in their age, when they were born, and all those details that pertain to that. Then the next thing you do is that it gives them access to content that is of their age. So you find that a child of 6 years is not supposed to be accessing YouTube. But many of us just dish out the device and give your child to go on YouTube. So you're not very careful what they search. So for us to get away from that, you give your child's correct email address, the age, and once you log into that device, the apps that you're going to download are specifically for that age group. Then there's this interesting app called Family Link. It's actually found on Android devices. And this is what you put your child's email address in. So you download it to your device, you put your child's email address. All your children below, actually should be below 13, but should go on all the way to 18 because kids who are 13, they're still young. So we don't allow them to access anything that is, it's very dangerous out there, so don't give them a chance to access anything out there. So with Family Link, you're able to control what your child does on the device. First thing that you do is you control what your child watches. Number 2, you control what your child searches on the internet. And number 3, you also control something called screen time. A lot of us are having big challenges with all that kind of information. But this is where now you get to quench your thirst about that. So remember, the restrictions run also something called daily time limit. You don't want to give your child a phone in the morning, they're on holiday, at 9 after breakfast or when they're having breakfast. Then your child continuously uses that device the whole day. There is fatigue that comes with it, but we hardly see that. So what we do is that we give them a time limit. So you can give your child a time limit of around maybe 4 hours in a day. So they're able to interact socially outside there with the other kids. That's number one. Then number two, you're able to restrict the content that they search on the internet. You remember, you can search something, and a small typo gives you very interesting results. So we are trying to protect the children from such sins. So the first thing that you do with that Family Link app, you're able to delve in and change a lot of things that they search. So you can easily block Google, for example, or you block an application, for example. So let's talk about blocking Google. So you block them from the search engine. So this child, once they try and open the search engine, it's grayed out. There's nothing there for them. So you're protecting them from accessing things that they're not supposed to actually access, okay? So there are also these interesting things on online books, content, it's very dangerous. And you don't know what they search when they are alone. So you're assured to close that. Then the second thing is that, actually the fourth thing, we control location settings. So you're able to know where your child is. If your child has a device and you send them to church, for example, and you're home, so you're able to see where that child is. It easily tells you your child left home, your child is in this location. So you sit and see exactly where they are. Then the other thing we talked about is controlling downtime on the same devices. So I know many of you with kids who have phones, let them sleep with phones. So you probably sleep time at your house is 9 o'clock. At 10:30, your child is deep in the blankets, and they're laughing, and you're wondering what they're laughing about. So that is something you can control. So like in our house, we have downtime for devices. So at 8:30, the device goes off on its own. But there's an override to that. Your child can call you in case they need to call you. But the screen is black, and it says downtime, come tomorrow at X time. So you can we set downtime at 8:30, and the devices open up at 7. But that doesn't mean they start using them at 7. So between that time, it's grayed out. They won't do anything unless you override that to allow them to continue accessing the device. Another one is you prohibit application installation. Remember we talked about the correct age when you're setting this device. When you have set the device, you're able to also allow the child to download applications for their age. So there's no setting of giving your age as an adult when you're setting that email address. Then the next thing that you do, your child is downloading Facebook, they're on TikTok, they're on Instagram. Some of these things are for 13 and above. So here you're able to control them not to download that. And on the Family Link application, you actually, before they download anything, it pops up on the parent's device. So it will tell you your child is trying to download this. Will you approve or not? So you're able to approve or deny that same thing. So you see now this brings us together, and you're able to secure your child's device and what it is that they do online. There's one question. How many of us with children below 8 allow them to access YouTube? I think it's many of us. And the funny thing is that children below that age are not supposed to access YouTube. There's something called YouTube Kids. So remember, that age that we talked about in the beginning, if it is adhered to and set, once your child takes that device and tries to access YouTube, it doesn't work. It simply goes round and round like there's a network error. But they're supposed to access something called YouTube Kids. So that is what they access. It doesn't have pop-ups of anything, and it just gives them content that is for their age. and it secures them completely. I think we're done with the kids. I hope you've learned one or two things that you're supposed to do when you secure your child's device and secure them on the internet. Now we're going to talk about the second part of this, is when we're securing the larger community. How to be safe when you're on the internet. Because as adults, we are never too safe when you're online. There's always someone trying to scam you somewhere, but you never know. Sometimes we also set ourselves up for that kind of scam. So there's something very interesting called social engineering. The people who hack you or hack your devices are not equally too bright, and I'm not disapproving them, but what they do is that they do something called social engineering. Social engineering is where they ask you very interesting questions and you answer. Like someone can call you and tell you, or rather you can have a case online. So you've gone to Twitter, you've said, I don't have power. But somewhere along the way you had overshared your information where you shared your phone number. So someone saved your phone number. Someone looks at how you tweet. Then you go to Kenya Power and say, I don't have power, this is my account number, and so forth. So what do? They've now joined your tweet and your phone number. So immediately you tweet, someone calls you. But remember, they don't have all information about you. They just have whatever you tweeted, and at some point you shared your phone number. So this guy calls you and tells you, we're calling from Kenya Power. You're saying you have a problem with power. Where do you live? You tell them where you live. And what's your account number? You tell them. Remember, someone who's at Kenya Power, before you log in a ticket, before you tweet, of course you've logged in a ticket due to frustrations, where you've shared all the information, asks you for your account number and location and probably the problem, if it's a face problem, a whole estate, or so forth. This guy calls you and asks you for very interesting information about yourself. They ask you about where you're calling from, how long have you not had power. So you continue because now you're desperate. That's social engineering happening. But remember, you're continuously sharing your information. It gets to a point where they ask you, where they tell you they cannot see your meter online. And the question is, you cannot see my meter because we are off. So what do? They tell you to send an M-Pesa. Buy units, probably worth 50 shillings, something very little. And if you're not very keen, that conversation goes on and on, so they tell you, buy 50 shillings, you buy. And then they tell you, the next thing that you do, we have another phone here in the office. Can you forward that whole message as is to us? So it's not, don't forward to me the, M-Pesa thing, forward end to end. Now here is where they're going to check your M-Pesa balance. Because forward takes as is. So you forward, and the guy sees your M-Pesa balance. If your balance is a little bit too high, they now start working. So the next thing that they tell you is that in your phone, have you received that text for Kenya Power? You say no. Then they tell you there seems to be a problem. But as I say, they're not very clever. So if you're a step ahead of them, you'll know that USSD doesn't work when the phone is on. So they tell you what you're going to do is dial *234*, I think 5#. So ask yourself, what does *234 go to? You'll check that. It goes to your M-Pesa. So when you do *234*, I think 5#, it removes the hakikisha thing. There's something Safaricom brought that your voice is your password. It removes that. Then they'll keep telling you, now you cannot be able to receive that. I don't know what is happening. Can you switch off your phone? The moment you switch off your phone, And you switch it on after 2, 3 minutes, your line is gone. They've cloned your line. What did you do? You gave out all your information. So all they needed to do was remove the hakikisha, and they're able to get into your M-Pesa, take loans. I mean, all that thing they do. M-Pesa, M-Shwari, KCB, Tala, everything else that people borrow money towards. Now that's what they do. That is what social engineering is. So it's a prod, question after question after question. And many of us willingly give that information because at some point you're very desperate to get help. And this is where these guys, dig in and find the weak spot and take off with the information, and that's it. Social engineering experts, I was actually sharing a lengthy example of what they usually do so that you don't wonder what social engineering really is. The social engineering experts use techniques and principles such as authority, intimidation, bold impersonation, urgency, scarcity, and even emergency situations, the grooming of trust or familiarity, persistence, and patience. I'll ask a very interesting question. There's a time we all get a text message. Mtoto ameumwa na nyoka. Tuma 30 bob, tuma 50 bob ya boda, and that's it. So there's a day I received that, and I wondered and I thought, is it a wrong number? Should I send a message? Should I call and tell them umetuma message to the wrong person? Then I realized, no, this is a trick. So what you're going to do, you're going to send that 50 bob. It might not be a lot of money, but you're going to send that 50 bob. This guy has your number. This guy has your name. So the next thing, they are going to call you on a random day and give you very interesting stories. And at some point, that story goes on, and they tell you they've sent you money. Can you return back? We've had that kind of experience, I'm sure many of us, where someone calls you and tells you, they call you by your name. But remember what you did initially? Mtoto ameumwa na nyoka, he sent money. So please don't. Let's try and not act immediately such scams, because they actually know what they're doing. And the funny thing is that you'll call that number and it's off, because that guy wants to gather information from you to know you're called Joseph Wanyeki, you've sent out 50 bob, and this is your number. So next time they ring, hello? XX, are you there? Yes. We've sent you 300 shillings or whatever amount of money. Can you please return it back? So they continue knowing about you. And there's something very interesting, because I remember there's a time I actually came from church, went to the parking, I just put my phone, it was on mute, so I put back the sound. And someone called. I saw it was written, I think, scam or something like that. And this guy tells me, Bwana Joseph, nimekutumia pesa. Unaweza ona? And I wondered, who's this? Amengojea nitoke church and they're calling me. I said, okay, fine. If you sent me money, let's play this game. So I told him, I've not seen that text, but how would you like me to help you? He said, no, send back the money. And I told him, you know what? I work for Safaricom. So these things that you guys are doing are very wrong. And the guy was surprised, so he changed his tone and became very friendly. And he told me, now we are going to be working with you. Yes, we are going to be working with you. What you're going to be doing, nitakuwa natafuta jamaa huko na mgonga, alafu unanitafutia start key. So the start key is something I won't talk much about, but it's something that they use. That's why they'll tell you, press, I don't know, star what and what and what, and all of a sudden you've either shared all your money and taken an overdraft of Fuliza and so forth and sent to them. That's what the start key is. So the guy tells me, come on, afanya huko. Then what we'll be doing, you will be sending me a start key. Then I get someone, I get 100,000, I give you 50,000. I told him, boss, everything is actually monitored and there are logs to it. So you go look for other people to continue trying and working with them. And he laughed and said, no, 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 I'll call you, I'll call you. I think Kenyans are very hungry for money. So this guy was very persistent. He said, no, 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 I'll call you. I told him, no, no, it's okay. No need to call me. You go look for someone else to work with. So you see, you cut. I also did social engineering and delved down and knew what exactly they usually do. So back to, I'll say, our lesson. We're going to talk about a summary of social engineering types. So the type here is pretexting. And the description here is when a person invents a scenario in the hope of persuading a victim to divulge information. I think I've shared an example. We won't go through that. The next one is a malicious insider threat. When a person works at an organization with the secret purpose of obtaining secret information, financial information, design, or anything else. For those of us who work in the financial industry, we'll know our systems are very, they have a lot of information that you can easily sell for money or for anything else that you want to gain. So the user, as we say, is the weakest point in terms of security. The next one is phishing. So phishing is not phishing, it's P-H-I-S-H-I-N-G. That is phishing. It's an attempt at fraudulently obtaining private information. This is usually done electronically via email. So it's actually divided further down into segments where it's called vishing with a V. It's done via phone. There's spear phishing. It targets specific individuals. Because phishing itself, overall, I'll go get your email addresses and I send you something and you click on a link and you start filling in information and I get all your information. But now we're going to spear phishing targets specific people. So you might find where you work, it's targeting procurement people. It's targeting the guys in finance, the guys in anything. So it's specific towards some people so as to get information. Then the other one is called whaling. Whaling targets the senior executives in an organization. The other one is called shoulder surfing. So shoulder surfing is when a person uses direct observation to find out a target's password, PIN, or any other authentication information. This is why you're told when you go to the ATM, try as much as you can to cover what you're doing. When you're at the supermarket and you input in your PIN, try as much as you can to cover when you input your password. The other one I've seen is there's a weak point in something called push STK. So you've gone to the supermarket and they've told you, no, don't lipa via M-Pesa. Give me your phone number, I enter it. So it enters and it gives an alert for you to pay. So it has an amount, the store name. All you just need to do is input your PIN. Push STK is not secure. And this is where shoulder surfing comes into play. Because your password, your M-Pesa password is in plain text. So if someone is malicious and they're behind you and they know all your details, they will simply pop their eye and see what exactly you've input. Then the next time, you're not going to have the same balance as you thought you had. The other one is called eavesdropping. This is when a person uses direct observation to listen in to a conversation. The other one is called dumpster diving. This is when you're trying to clear up your documents, but you don't use the correct way of disposing the same. So what people do, you crumble the paper and you throw it in the bin. You crumple all your papers, throw in the bin, main bin of the house, main bin of the apartment or the estate, and it's outside there. These guys who come and pick your takataka, they actually go through your documents, they actually go through your garbage, let's say that as a whole. And if they see a paper, they don't just continuously throw it, they straighten it out. And there is all your information. There's your lovely CV, it has all your email address, your phone number, your PO box, your names, everything. So this person is going to have a lot of your information. If they're malicious, they can easily do something with that information. So the best way to get rid of your personal documents is to either shred them by a machine, tear physically with your hands, or sometimes try and soak the papers so that they are mashed together, so that whenever someone tries to straighten it up, it simply tears out. Because we've seen cases where someone, just crumpled or rather threw out their CV and everything. Then another one is in a matatu, Mombasa Road, buying njugu from someone. You eat the njugu that is wrapped nicely. Then there's a lot of traffic. You open that paper, and you read your friend's CV because they didn't throw out their paper well. So I mean, let's try and dispose of our information in the best way possible. The other last one is called baiting. Baiting is someone leaves a flash drive on the table somewhere. And we all love having an extra drive. You want to put some music in your car, you want to watch a movie, basically you just want to have an extra flash drive. So what do you do when you pick it up? It's something that you need to interact with it on a computer. So everyone is going to come, you pick, put in your machine without even thinking twice. So there's someone else who had put a very interesting program in it. So when you slot it in and you go to Windows Explorer and you double click, it opens, it starts running a code. You will not see the code, but it's been input in something we call autorun. It's been input there, you double click, whoop, starts running a program. Might be a keylogger, might be anything else. So it's hacking into your machine. Anything that you input, it sees and sends back to someone as long as you're connected to the internet. So even if you format this drive immediately, but you still open the drive, your information starts now leaking out. We're going to talk about preventive and safety measures. In the Bible, shepherds are often referred to as guides and protectors of their flock. Psalm 119, 176 says, "Know that the Lord, He is God. It is He who made us, and we are His. We are His people and the sheep of His pasture." Just as shepherds ensure the safety of their sheep, we as a church have a responsibility to safeguard not only ourselves, but our children, families, and the society as a whole. How can we achieve this? Ephesians 6:17 says, "Take the helmet of salvation, the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God." The sword here symbolizes the word of God, which is our weapon against spiritual challenges. Similarly, security awareness and education are our weapons against online threats. By safeguarding our devices, we can curb this. The biggest question is, how do we keep ourselves safe from all these online attacks? The common entry points are your devices and accounts. Limiting access by enforcing access controls. Change your password often. I always say, do not share your password. So you have a Gmail account, you have a Yahoo account, you have a Live, Outlook, and so forth. All these 5, to begin with, share the same password. And some of us don't like getting tired, so what do? Joseph.Wanyeki at Yahoo, at Gmail, at Live, at Outlook, and so forth, and the password is the same. So when someone hacks your first account, they can easily hack the next account. So don't use a common password, and don't use your name. Don't use your birth. People use their birthday, their birth year, something that is very close within what you call within yourself. Don't use that. Try and mix your passwords. So have uppercase, lowercase, numbers, and characters. Try and make it to be around 12 to secure yourself. We usually do it around 16. 23 is for those devices that are they're very important in the organizations, so you put it at 23. But for you, try and put it at 12. Then, another thing, 2-factor authentication. A lot of us are very happy using that on our bank platforms. But what happens on your email address? You don't use that. You simply quickly ignore that and say, not now, for the future. Then when someone hacks your email address, you're there trying and looking for all the IT experts, and you have the information there. So let's try and two-factor authentication. Let's try and use that. What it is, for those people who don't understand what 2FA is, it's when you input your email address, you input a password, or let's say you input your username and your password. Then before logging in, you're supposed to get a code, either on an alternative email or on your phone as a text. And for those of us who use a QR, there's something like an authenticator. So it pops up a code where you input and you proceed. So let's try as much as we can to secure our email addresses, any platform that you access on the internet. Try and have two-factor authentication if it is available. B, do not reply to emails with links. I've seen this. What happens is someone reads how your organization sends email addresses. This is information out there. There's no secret about that. Then they create an email address, and they write their name exactly like your organization. So it looks like that email address, that email has originated from within your organization. So the good you, who does not want to be flagged by IT people that you don't read your emails and you don't take action, you simply click and you start inputting your username. They say change your password, click here, old password, you put your old password. But now someone on the back end who is malicious is reading your email address and that old password you've input, because they get it as plain text. What did you do? You did not read that email address, where it has come from. Because I can easily go on the back end and change my name to probably read XX. But the email address is what will sell you out. So let's be very keen. When someone sends you an email, before you even go reading down, read it as whose name it is and the complete email address that has sent you. Okay? Then from there, you'll be able to read and see. Does it ask you to click on links? Is this something that is common within your organization or within your social circles? If not, don't click on it. As I've said, your information now is sent to someone else in plain text, and all they have is just time to log in and do whatever they need to do with that session that they'll have. The other one is we have several sites impersonating as an ad. Sometimes you're very curious when you're online. So what do? You click here, you click there, you click here. Then you go to your IT guy or whoever you call your IT professional within your social circles, and you tell them, my machine keeps popping ads and ads and ads. But those ads simply eat into your bandwidth, number one. Number two, they read what you're doing. And someone makes money out of that. So let's not click on anything that you come across. Try as much as you can to maintain what you're doing on your session. The other one is have an ad blocker. An ad blocker comes with a commercial antivirus or internet security solution. Nowadays, we've come from the age where antivirus was a very expensive affair. Now it goes for around, I think, 3,000. You can get internet security for up to 4 devices for 1 year. That versus whatever it is that you can lose, data, your information, or anything else, is not a cost to try and gamble with. So be wary of unverified websites, because some of them ask for a lot of information. So you've logged into something, you look at it, and you're like, ask you for your name, first name, last name. Next thing they're asking you is even for your PIN, a lot of things. Stop that session. Just close. So it's more of being keen, because these guys will use a lot of engineering to get to you. So they ask you for all the way up to probably your year of birth and your ID. You realize now what it is that I'm giving out is a lot of private information. So be wary of that. When it gets to a level where you feel it's not very comfortable sharing all this information, just close the session. Be out of it. The other one is, we are all guilty of this. Free Wi-Fi. We all love that. You know, you pop into a restaurant, you want to have coffee, and you want to get into their Wi-Fi. But I'll give you a very interesting scenario. The Wi-Fi is free. You'll do a lot of things. But what if I'm sitting somewhere with a device, it's called an access point or a MiFi, with the same name as that restaurant? I'm still giving you internet, but I'm seeing everything that you're doing. Dangerous, eh? Yes, that's what hackers do. So you can find someone at a corner somewhere. He has a device there. I'll say Java. They don't sue me. It's there. It's written, I don't know if it's Java Wi-Fi, and then there's a Java Wi-Fi, the main one. So since it's close to you, you see, the signal here is even bright, even better. So you join his Wi-Fi. And you're there, you say, ata kwanza wacha niangalie balance ya bank. You're quickly there in the bank. And the guy is checking, he's seeing, you went here, you went here, you went here. And he's put a program that gives him your details in plain text. After that, you come and say, no, I've been hacked, but what happened? You love the free Wi-Fi. So let's stop going anywhere and plugging in and saying, I want your Wi-Fi. Just try and buy bundles. I think sometimes you can get 50 bob up to midnight. A whole 1 GB. You won't lose anything. But now when you go and, Ebuni, plug in, I want, eh? And someone just gives you that, and sometime in the future, they won't attack you then and then. They'll give you 2, 3, 4, 5 days, and things start looking different. The other one is something called VPN. Sometimes you can be somewhere you don't trust the network. So what do? You have the VPN is called Virtual Private Network. So this actually encloses your traffic, your internet traffic. And the breakout point is in that VPN. Because what happens, you join the Wi-Fi. Let's say you come to church. They give you the password. You're busy working and working and working, but you don't know someone else was given the password, and they're doing malicious things. So what they're doing is that they're looking at the traffic up and down, and knowing what you're doing. But if you have a VPN, all you just needed for that internet was to get into that VPN. Then all the traffic goes through there. It is secure. And you have to make sure, if it's a commercial VPN that you're using, make sure that there's no tunnel splitting. It's called tunnel splitting. So tunnel splitting is where they give some certain kind of traffic goes to the VPN, the other one goes to the originating internet access point that you're using. So try as much as you can to learn. If you're given VPN at work, ask if there's tunnel splitting. If there is, be wary of that. Just do whatever you're supposed to do, which is office work. The rest, cut off the VPN, do it on your end. Never, under any circumstances, give out any authentication details such as your password, your PIN, your company ID, tokens, smart cards, and so on. Always shield keypads, as I've mentioned earlier, and screens when entering authentication information. Use encryption where possible to protect your emails, sometimes your phone calls, and your data. If there is any doubt as to legitimacy of a person, email or phone call, document the situation and escalate it to your supervisor, security, or the IT authority. Never pick up or make any use of unknown removable media. This is the flash disks and so forth. Always shred any sensitive information. I've shared why. Be careful when using a web browser. Double click and double check everything that is typed before pressing enter. Some websites usually shadow the original website, but they miss one letter. You might be in a hurry, or your eyes might be tired, and you miss that same letter. And it looks the same until you start seeing these people are asking me too many questions. So be careful. The last one is there are negative effects, of course, when you use the devices, you're online and so forth. There are posture defects. There's effect on eyesight. We've seen blue light affects a lot of people nowadays. There's also addiction. If you remember when we started, I talked about your device, your child's device, the downtime, screen time. There's that addiction. So people get addicted to their devices and staying online. And it messes you up because you're not able to interact with the outside world. Then there's also mental health. I won't delve much into that since I know doctors might question me. Then the last one is, what do you do in the event of an attack where probably you've lost your data? So the first thing that you do is, before you even lose your data, backup. Backup, backup, backup. That's a song we keep singing every time. That's at work. But it also, lives within your life and whatever it is that you have. So remember, kitambo, back in the day, you would lose your phone and you'd start looking for contacts. When you meet someone, hebu nikumbushe namba yako. But nowadays that is long gone. Because what do? We have synchronized our phones to our email addresses, and that's where our contacts are saved. So that's one backup aspect. You can also back up your photos on the phone, so as not to lose them. You can back up your data to a drive that is online. Nowadays, if you have too many photos, you can still back them up on the cloud. Most of the cloud services actually cost probably around 200 shillings for 100 GB per month. That one versus losing your precious data is something that you cannot try and gamble with. So let's try and embrace backup. And the last one, I'm sure, is, you might laugh, it says, just as God forgives us, we should learn from our mistakes in the digital realm. If we fall victim to scams or breaches, it is an opportunity for us to improve our cybersecurity practices and move on without hating ourselves or having grudges against perpetrators. So let's be careful when we are out there. Remember all the points that we've discussed. If there's anything that you might need clarified, we will be here to assist. Thank you for listening.